Moving from one kind of fantasy to another, let's take a look now at The Great Muppet Caper, which is the second Muppet movie and sort of a disappointment, I thought. The original Muppet movie, which came out in 1979, told about how Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy and the other Muppets left their swamps and other homes and traveled to Hollywood in search of stardom. Well, as The Great Muppet Caper opens, they're already acting like stars, and the movie really gives them a red carpet treatment. I'm not too happy about that. Instead of treating them as humble little quasi-human animals, this movie treats them as big movie stars. In the movie, Kermit and Fozzie Bear travel to England and get caught up in a caper involving a diamond the size of a baseball and a ring of jewel thieves led by Charles Grodin. In one of the film's most enjoyable scenes, Kermit meets Miss Piggy and they go for a bicycle ride through the park.
Pretty day, sunny sky, lovely pictures dance in your eye. It all seems so right. It all feels so rare. We fly, we fly. Ooh, Miss Piggy.
The problem with criticizing a Muppet movie after you see a scene like that is that it's almost impossible not to love the Muppets. In the first movie, only Kermit rode a bicycle, but later on in that scene, all the characters get on their bikes. It's a real scene of Muppet magic. The real star of this movie, however, is the complicated, deeply disturbed, and highly neurotic Miss Piggy, whose narcissistic escapism into daydreams has already been well documented in her first film. In this scene, she becomes, as usual, the centerpiece of adoration at a fancy restaurant in London.
You see her, no magical change, no angels appearing, no dreams to arrange, just warmer and colder than springtime or snow. The first time it happens, you know.
What a great number!
Nicky, that's my new receptionist dancing out there.
Which one?
The pig.
She's sensational.
45 words a minute. About average.
Garbo laughs and Miss Piggy tap dances. That's a cute scene, but I wonder how many of the kids watching the movie are going to know that's a satire of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Later in the movie, there's another satirical production number based on Busby Berkeley's syncopated bathing beauties. Well, that may also be more entertaining for adults, I think, than for kids. But the real problem with The Great Muppet Caper is that the movie devotes too much attention to the jewel thief plot and not enough to character. What made the Muppets great in the first place on television and in their first movie was the way they seemed to reflect real human qualities, the way they revealed their frailties, their weaknesses, their hurt feelings, as they tested their vulnerable egos in the non-Muppet real world. Well, this time, they're so one-dimensional, so shallow, and so prepackaged, why, they're almost like puppets.
Well, I agree with your analysis, but at the same time, I still like the movie more. Let me try and explain why. I agree with you. The jewel theft plot is lousy. It's not very clever or funny or interesting or suspenseful. Very bad. At the same time, you point out how Miss Piggy is really the star of the movie. I agree with you, and I think she's great. Every time she popped up on the screen, I paid more attention to her and attention to the film. I'm not saying that because I want to be cute or trendy with Miss Piggy. I'm not even the biggest fan of The Muppet Show. But she is a genuine actress in this film. When they flip her upside down, you notice how big her thighs are when she has her lines of dialogue and her fantasy. It's interesting. So I'm recommending the film only for those scenes in which she's on the screen.
Well, here's my problem with Miss Piggy. If you remember her from television or from the first movie, she was very vulnerable. She was very insecure. She really hardly had the courage to go out there and face the day. Every morning when she woke up, it was almost like she wanted to go back under the covers again. And then when these wonderful things happened to her in life, like people said, "Oh, Miss Piggy, you're so beautiful," her response was, "Me? You know, are they talking about me?" And then her eyes would glow. In this film, she comes on as a winner from the beginning of the movie. She's always been idolized by everybody in the film, and that seems to me to come so easily to her that we miss what was really special about Miss Piggy.
Well, I think isn't this great? But look at the analysis that we're doing on this piece of foam rubber. I mean, this is why, at least I think you got to grant me that this is a genuine character, and this is what amazed me. As I watched her, I was saying, how many musical comedy actresses who sing and dance do we have? You know, Liza Minnelli doesn't make too many movies. Streisand isn't singing and dancing in the movies lately either. But this pig is, and this pig is interesting.
You know, it's been a long time since we've gotten so involved in the character of anybody in a movie.
So just on a limited basis, I recommend the film. Okay. We split on the second Muppet movie, The Great Muppet Caper. Roger thought it was too much about the jewel robbery and not enough about the Muppets. He votes no. Well, I didn't like the jewel robbery either, but Miss Piggy was on screen enough for me to recommend the film.